Good morning. Welcome to Our Town at Comma Coffee. I'm Kurt Caraway. This morning we're going to be speaking with Shelly Aldean from the Carson City Board of Supervisors. Right now we're going to take a short break for a word from our sponsor.
The Carson Mall has excellent services. All this and more at the Carson Mall.
And we're back talking with Shelly Aldean. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, Kirk. How are you?
All right. Well,
Good.
how's the Board of Supervisors doing?
How are we doing? Well, you know, it's never a dull moment.
Yeah, that last meeting was a little long.
It was.
I don't know who makes up your agenda. That one was a nightmare.
I think it related to some of the testimony in connection with the City Center project. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's a controversial project.
Mm-hmm.
People have to be given the opportunity to speak their mind. And although I would encourage people to, especially if the meeting lasts more than a couple of hours, to submit their comments in writing rather than, you know, express an hour's worth of commentary at the podium.
Well, I think that's an important point. You know, I've known about this, but haven't really said anything. But you can send in things in writing. I mean, a lot of people think that I have to show up and I have to get up and speak, and some people have long presentations and things like that. And the problem is, in a stand-up presentation like that, you don't hear after the first couple of minutes anyway. It's
right. It wears on you after a while. But you know, a lot of people have some very interesting and useful comments, and so I would encourage them to do that. But you need to try to be as succinct as possible.
Yeah.
And then supplement their verbal testimony with a written explanation of their position. So I would encourage that.
It also can give you time to take a look at it. If you're just sitting there and somebody speaks in front of you, you don't have time to check out what they're saying.
That's exactly right. And actually, you know, our city staff are very conscientious. When we receive emails at City Hall, all of those emails are forwarded on to the board. So, you know, if any of the members of the listening audience are concerned that their emails are not going to be forwarded on to the board members, that is not the case. We do receive lots of emails.
And your email addresses are listed on the site there too.
They are indeed, so they can email us directly if they choose to.
So, well, I mean, you know, this project is, you know, of course, it's been like the topic of big conversation for quite a while, and you know, it's, you know, you seem to have some reservations about some of it. You talked about trying to get it scaled back, I guess, or something because of the money situation.
Well, you know, when this was, and again, I understand that projects evolve over time, especially when you're doing a feasibility analysis, but the thing that concerns me is the amount of money that, even in the best case scenario, but in the worst case scenario especially, the amount of money that would have to come out of the general fund on an annual basis. When we originally talked about the City Center project, you know, it was a project that was going to be funded basically with an 1/8 of a cent sales tax, which we as a board can implement for infrastructure improvement work and projects of this nature, and tax increment, which is an appropriate use for tax increment. And now it's expanded to include a substantial amount of money from the general fund. And my concern is a practical one. I mean, we have no stability fund. We've exhausted the money in our stability fund, our stabilization fund. So if there were a crisis and an immediate need for capital, you know, we would be hard pressed to find the money necessary to address that crisis. Whether it be a natural event or whether it be an unforecasted, you know, financial challenge, we just would be hard pressed to find the resources to deal with it effectively, and that concerns me.
Yeah, okay. We're going to take a short break right now.
Okay.
Come back after a word from our sponsor.
All right, great.
The Carson Mall has fantastic food. All this and more at the Carson Mall.
And we're back, and you know, the money, because I was talking with the sheriff earlier, that, you know, they talked a little bit about, you know, how their budget cuts have affected some of their traffic enforcement, you know, and so people ask, if you're going to pull money out of the general fund, you know, what else has to get cut in order to make that happen? Is that, you know, I mean, where's
Well,
that
I mean,
gonna come
that's a valid question, and we don't have the answers to that question right now, Kirk. I mean, you know, the whole point of this 60 to 90-day hiatus, you know, is to now look at putting together a development agreement that will answer those questions definitively.
Right.
I mean, we've been speculating about certain elements of this project for a long time. Certain commitments have been made verbally, but let's see how those commitments translate into a legally enforceable document. So, you know, I'm just kind of taking a wait-and-see attitude. But, you know, the admonition to staff, at least from myself and the mayor, was sharpen your pencils, because we have some serious concerns about the dipping into the general fund to make this project viable.
I know one of the things you brought up was the parking garage. Something
Right.
I've hit on too is that, you know, this is a $7.8 million part of the project.
A quarter of it.
Yeah,
25% of it.
and you know, whether it's needed for, you know, if the private part isn't coming along,
Right.
or whatever. I know you asked if they could delay it, and they seemed adamant they couldn't, but you know, I think that was part of your direction to them to see if there's ways around that, so you don't have to come up with that money at the beginning of it. So.
Right. You know, it's all about staging. I mean, for example, if the imperative is to upgrade the library, and based on my conversations with people in the community, although they're not wildly enthusiastic about an increase in taxes, they seem to be, at least on the philosophical level, they seem to be supportive of the idea of this new Knowledge and Discovery Center and job creation. And so let's take a look at maybe delaying the building of the plaza. I know there is a sense of urgency because you know, prices are good, people are hungry for work, they're more likely to come in with bids that are substantially below our estimates, and that's actually been the case with most of our RTC projects, that the projects have come in substantially below our engineer's estimate. So it is a good bidding climate, but on the other hand, if we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And so do we need a plaza? Could we go ahead and build the Knowledge and Discovery Center without the other enhancements? And then, as you know, as money permits, as the economy recovers, take a look at these other embellishments. I don't think it's an all or nothing sort of scenario, and that's what I'm hoping staff will take a look at, a phasing of this project. I know that the Nugget is concerned about, you know, losing parking, but the interesting thing is, and maybe Steve wasn't aware of it, when I first came to Carson City, I spoke with Bob Rogan, who used to be a member of the Board of Supervisors, and the Adams brothers had made a commitment. There was some concern about the fact that the Nugget was kind of developing a sea of parking, a sea of asphalt behind their complex, and they made a verbal commitment to build a parking garage, and to this day, Bob is irritated that they never followed through with that commitment. So I wanted to kind of sensitize Steve that some people are still kind of annoyed that that commitment was never honored, and I don't know whether his foundation has the financial resources to contribute to the expense. I know that obviously the land will ultimately be owned by Carson City, and that's wonderful, but you know, I think we really need to take a hard look at the components of this partnership and make sure that it's truly equal.
Is there any thought given to looking at other locations also? Because it seemed to me that yes, they're donating the land for the library, but the cost is building a $7.8 million parking garage. That for a lot less than $7.8 million, you could find another 3 acres of land somewhere to put this on and actually reduce the cost of the whole project and get it down.
Well, you know, there have been suggestions that we look at the old City Bank building. Unfortunately, it's about 22,000 square feet. It's no bigger than the existing library. There's some limitations in terms of what we can do at the existing library site. But as far as I'm concerned, nothing's off the table. It would be nice if the city actually owned a piece of property that we could use for this purpose.
The V&T properties that's sitting there too. People talked about that. But
the Lockyer property.
Yeah.
It just depends on how negotiable Mr. Lockyer is, the old V&T Roundhouse property. And that would be, but I think it is important geographically to have a central location for this facility, wherever that might be.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And we're
bet.
going to have you on again, and we'll talk some more.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you for tuning in to OurTown Comic Copy. We will catch you next time.
The Carson Mall has exciting shopping. All this and more at the Carson Mall.